Hello again, everyone. In the previous class, we have already discussed about the concept of an attribute. For example, if we look at this table, we have four attributes. And it comprises the column for each and every table. So here we have the attribute number, the attribute name, the attribute email ID, and the attribute department. So for each and every attribute, we need to assign some value to make it meaningful. Fine, for it to have some value or to have some meaning or to make it understandable. For example, if I just mention department can be anything. But when I mention arts department or commerce department or science department, it becomes very clear, right? So every attribute here have to have a value. And this value that we assign to every attribute here will be allotted or will be predefined from before. So in order to be able to specify this or in order to be able to write the format for this, that is what we will be learning in this particular lecture. We will be looking at the different data types that you can assign or that you can use. And that means for every value. For example, in this case, we have the number 10. We have a collection of character Annie. We have here ads, and we have here a collection of character. You can even have number as your email ID. I mean combination of character numbers also. You can include character somewhere in between, and then you have the special symbol at the rear of and the dot, for example. Now, in order to know how to assign where and what, fine, we will learn about the actual data type in your structured query language. Fine. So data type here, each values that you assign, each value that is included in your structured query language can be manipulated here by your SQL database. And in order to do that, each and every value need to have their own data type. The data type of each and every one of those values, whether it's a 10 or whether it's Annie or whether it's abc@gmail.com, they have to have a fixed set of properties and they have to be mentioned specified from before, and you cannot just use it randomly and just assign anything. There have to be fixed set of values, fixed set of properties of rules that you will have to follow. So we will discuss few of the main important type of the not important I'll say, but the one that you will be using regularly. When a different data type, you will be learning about the character data type, the number data type, the date data type, and the boolean data type. From the name itself, it's very easy for you to understand it. Just from character, you clearly understand that what are the type of data that we are going to store here. What we'll be learning here is a different type of format, how exactly it is to be written. When I say character, what exactly will be stored in a character. Fine. When I say character here, you will not only store numbers. Fine. In character, you can store a combination of both character, that means alphabet, as well as number. That is why here in character you can store a concept called as an alphanumeric data. Alphabet also is accepted. A combination of alphabet and number is also accepted. And we will come back to that. Whereas number will entirely store all the numbers. It can be either an integer number or it can be a fractional number. We'll look at that. Date, simple as date. Boolean is where you store those two values. By Boolean, it means always either true or false. Fine, you have learned about your Boolean logic in class 11. So by Boolean, it always means either true or false. So that is also another value that you can store in your database. Say if I ask you a particular question and I want you to answer it as either yes or no. That means a true or false. Then this is when you use the Boolean data type. In character, and normally you will come across these two character data type. One is a CHAR for in short for character, and another one is VAR, CHAR or a varying character. Character here stores a fixed length character string. That means if we mention something as like character, then followed by the number 10. This is the format here. And this is the format here. Character followed by 10. Character CHR followed by 10. That means your this particular data will accept exactly 10 number of alphabet. Suppose if you store something less than 10, say if I store ANNIE which is only 5, Now the remaining 5 have to be filled with a space. Fine, you cannot leave it as blank since you have mentioned it as character. So when we say character, it's always mean that it have to have a fixed size. When you perform the operation, the extra space will not be taken into consideration. But when it is stored in the memory of your computer, that means in your database here, those extra 5 space that is not filled, ANNIE will occupy only the first 5 space out of 10. Now the extra 5 here have to be filled with a space, and you cannot leave it as blank. That is the meaning of stores a fixed length character string. Fine. If it's less than the allotted size, the extra value here will be filled with a space, or it will be padded here with a blank. Fine, it will be padded here with blank. Now when you assign something as character, this will waste a lot of disk space. The reason is because say if I allot a character 1000, that means even if I use only 1 or 2 character, all the 1000 space here will be utilized. Whether I use it or you don't use it, but that much of memory space has to be allotted from before. Right? So once it has been allotted, you cannot use, even if you use say only 2 out of 1000 space, then the 1000 space has already been fixed. You cannot assign it, or it cannot be used by any other value or by anyone else. So it has been fixed here. Whereas the main advantage of using a varying character is that using a varying character, from the name itself, you can always vary the total number of character. Okay, what I'm just trying to say as the main difference between this is that here you don't have to fix a variable size. The format here is var char. I have not mentioned that, but the format for writing a variable character is var char followed by the total size that you want to allot. This size, if I allot it as 10 also, what will happen is, out of 10, if I cannot use all the 10, if I use only 5, so only 5 of the space will be used. The remaining 5 here will be left blank. Fine, and anyone else who need to use that space can easily come and take the space, the extra space that means. Right, so this is the meaning of a variable character. First one, it is fixed in length. This one can vary its length. If I have assigned it as this much, not necessarily that I have to occupy all those space. Fine, I just need to mention the maximum. Fine, but out of that, I can include any total number of character. Here, this is what I've already mentioned. The extra space here will be filled with a null. You can just leave it blank. Whereas in the above, you have to fill with a space. Something has to be filled. You cannot leave it as blank. Number here can be either a fixed number or it can be a floating point number. When I say a fixed number here can be either a negative number or positive number. But we are dealing only with an actual integer number. Fine, there is no decimal point. For example, a number 23, direct, simple. Whereas when I talk about floating point, this means we are talking about a real number. Say a number 23.57, which have an integer part as well as the decimal part of a number along with the decimal point. Fine, so these are the two types of numbers that you can store here. Fine, it can be either a fixed number or it can be a floating point number. Now these two type of number can be stored using either of this data type. When you want to store a fixed number or just an integer number, fine, you will use the data type int. Fine, the int data type here is the integer data type in your structure query language, as simple as that. So if you want to store a roll number, which is a fixed number 10, maybe 20 or 30, you can use the data type int. Whereas say, if you want to use a real number, find a real number or floating point number which have an integer number as well as a decimal point. In that case, you can use the decimal part of a number using the data type DC or numeric or decimal. Okay, inside the bracket we have included the P, comma S, where this P here is the precision. This here you need to mention how many total number of digits that mean you want to use. If I say 23.56, that means I have a total of 4 digit, right? 2, 3, 5, 6. P here is the precision, which is the total number of decimal digit, which is the total number in general of digits. S is a scale here, which is the total number of digits after the decimal point. So if I write decimal, say 10.2, that means I want the database to accept a total of 10 digits. And now 10, if I write 10 comma 2, this 2 means the total number of decimal point after the decimal point, total number of numbers digit after the decimal point. If I have a number, say 2 and 5, so this 0.25 will be displayed. Whereas if I have a number say in front, 32.257, so the 257 will not be accepted because they are total of 10 digits. They're total of 3 digits. So out of this 3, I'll take only the 2 digits. So that is the meaning of P comma S. P means total number, how many digits you want to include in total, whereas scale is the number of digits after the decimal point. You have a decimal point, how many you want to display after the decimal point, that will be your S. Date here is simple, right? When you need to include the date, say for your joining date or for your date of birth, then you can include this particular date format. Okay, the date format can be in this particular manner. It can be as by year, month, and date, or it can be just date, month, or year. And you can use any of this format. That means you can enter the number here specifically either using, without being very specific. You can enter it randomly in any number or any format that you want to use. Fine, so you just give format followed by date. Okay, it will display this will accept any type of date that you want to include. It can be either this, it can be either in this way or this way or this way. Now boolean, like what I've already mentioned, your boolean value traditionally have two values, right? This is what you have already learned in your class 10, in your class 11, right? When you learn about little bit about the concept of a boolean logic. So it will normally be either true or false or yes or no. Fine. So there will be basically only two values for your boolean data type, either true or false or yes or no. So when I ask you a question, the answer will be that means either yes or no or maybe true or false. So this is the boolean data type. So these are the four basic data types that you will normally come across when you use the concept of a structured query language. Fine, once you go in depth, once you study more in depth about the structured query language, there are many more data types that you will come across. But basically, these are the four data types that you need to understand. Character, you have number. Character allows you to even enter combination. That means your email ID. Fine, that can be your character. And then numbers, and then you have your date format, and finally your boolean data type. Okay, so I'll stop here for today. We'll continue in the next lecture. Okay, thank you very much.